Hello and welcome. You're watching Agenda. I'm Sonal Mehrotra Kapoor. The suicide of a 24-year-old in Bombay, a promising, affluent man who in a depressed state jumped off the Mumbai ceiling, got us all thinking, what is it that drives young adults into taking such extreme steps? According to WHO, 1 of 4 Indian children between 13 to 15, millennials, are depressed. India has one of the highest suicide rate within the age group of 15 to 29, again, millennials. In fact, it's not just India though. For example, recent studies in United States point out that close to 44% of college students experience depression. And there too, suicide is one of the leading causes of death amongst these students. Again, in the millennial bracket. Who are millennials? Millennials are the generation of people apparently born 1984 and after, who are said to be tough to manage, accused of being entitled. Some have even called them narcissist, unfocused, amongst other things. Thus the inevitable question, are millennials the most depressed generation? And joining me on the panel are some very special people. I've got Dr. Sonali Bali from Women's. I've got Jitin Chawla here in the studio with me. He's a career development from Career Counselling and Direction. We've also got from Bombay, Dr. Ajay Phadke, who's the CEO and founder of Type A Thought. And we've got Sudhir Mishra also, who's a filmmaker from Bombay with us. We've got some very special kids, all millennials, as our audience today. And it'll be very interesting to get their view also on this. I'm going to start with Dr. Phadke. Doctor, we've been discussing about how this generation, 1984 and later, has just not been able to cope up. People say they're just hard to manage. Just explain to us first, for the benefit of the viewers, who are millennials and what are the identifications for them?
Yeah, good evening. It's a very important question which you've brought up. Actually, lots of people say that the current millennial generation is narcissistic, they're self-involved, and they have a large share of the blame for what is actually happening to them today. But we also have to realize the conditions under which they've been brought up. So to begin with, let me just say that we should all know that depression has a genetic element, and there are lots of other factors which can be risk factors for depression. So the most important thing we have to understand is how these people have been brought up from a young age. So millennials are those people, the definition varies, but in general, those people who have been born after 1980 are considered to be millennials. Now, what is the issue is that the way they've been brought up. So the parenting styles are something which have to be considered as a risk factor, one would say. So all of us know something called as helicopter parents, and these parents who actually hover around their kids, taking part in every decision process that the kids are making, and stepping in to protect their kids from bullies and many other things. So this is a very well-meaning gesture which is done by the parents, but actually it prevents the children from making their own decisions and dealing with failures and learning to cope with failures in a very young stage of their life. So this is something which may not be in the best interest of the child in the long run. The second thing is a very negative parenting style. So in this, the child is basically criticized constantly. So over a period of time, the child starts developing negative thoughts about himself or herself. The second very important thing is technology. Now we all know technology is obviously a blessing for healthcare in general, but we have to understand there are certain drawbacks to technology if it is used excessively in day-to-day life.
Hold that thought, Doctor. You've talked in good detail about who exactly millennials are and what exactly leads to this condition. I want to, at this stage, since we've just defined the definition of millennials and we have an audience full of that, I have with me two very, very special kids. Thank you so much for coming here today, Arzu and Geetanjali. Arzu, I want to begin with you. You told me earlier today that at the age of approximately 16, you discovered that you were depressed. You then went on to get some help. What exactly happened and how did you discover? What did you do after? Please tell us.
Yeah, hi. So when I was 16, not exactly 16, I was about to be turning 17 when I got myself into a relationship. So, and that's when, so it was my first relationship, obviously. So, since I'm not very open with my parents, it was always hidden from them. So I used to go out after my college, after my school. I used to go out, meet,
How long was this relationship?
So about 1.5 years.
Then what happened?
So then suddenly, because it was the career time for both of us, so both of us got separated. He got into his own way, I got into my own way. So after we got separated, there were a lot of clashes, obviously, because of distances and misunderstandings. So the social media was obviously the only thing wherein I could see him and he could see me, because there was no other connection at all.
Why? You wouldn't just pick up the phone and call him?
He wouldn't pick up.
Because he wouldn't take your calls?
Yeah, because he was so busy.
So you weren't treated properly?
Exactly.
Then what happened?
So I got myself, I used to stay back at home. I used to, I was not talking to anybody at all. I did not even used to talk to my parents.
You were depressed?
Exactly. I used to stay in my own room.
But you told me that he dumped you later, and that kind of shook you up, because you felt that I'm the one who's being badly treated, and I'm the one who's getting dumped.
Exactly. So, and also when all this happened, this also affected my career, because when I started my job, I was not able to concentrate properly over there as well, because the thoughts always kept hovering in my mind. So, and when I used to stay back home and I did not used to sleep all night, I used to sleep the entire day, keep myself locked. My mom suddenly discovered that there's something wrong with me. So, because I was not open with them, I was not even open to sharing any of the thoughts that were going on in my mind. So after.
But then what happened? How did you decide that you had to seek help, and how did you discover that you were actually depressed?
Because it was literally going over my head. I had thought way beyond. I mean, the thoughts in my head had gone way beyond to just staying in my room and staying quiet about it. So I thought of various other things that I could do and just end my life at all. So that's when I decided I'll tell my mother about it.
What happened, if you don't mind sharing that?
Actually, I used to go out with my friends and all of that. So everybody used to go party, go drinking, have drugs and all of that. So I thought I'll just probably take something which won't suit me, and probably I'll just end my life. But when I told this to my mother, and I did not tell obviously what steps I'm going to take after that, but she really helped, because she listened to me carefully. She realized that this was my age wherein my mind could
Well, I'm just going to say thank you so much for sharing your story today, and I'm really glad that you've come here and you've decided to speak up about it. It's very difficult. On that note, Jitin, I want to get you in. Yeah. You just heard the story of Arzu there. This is a breakup, a failure at job, not scoring good enough marks, not being popular amongst the groups. These are just general issues which all teenagers go through. But how, at what point do you separate general sadness and rejection to depression?
So, before that, quickly, since the parenting point was being discussed, here there's an issue where apparently the openness was not developed at the house. See, a girl going through something like this, you could immediately go back and just share. Maybe at times when children come to me.
So this is an environment that parents haven't been able to create?
That, yes, because somewhere that sharing, if it would have happened, that would have not led to somebody, and still apparently she took control of her life. Otherwise she might have just gone astray. Yeah. So
done what that boy in Bombay did.
Absolutely. So I think children are more sensitive here. The millennials. Second, too much self-contained. Thanks to again social media.
But I want to ask you, you have a good relationship with your parents. Do they love you, they care for you, and you love them as well. But you still do not have that rapport to open up and talk to them about your relationship.
Yeah.
Typically parental time spent has gone down. If I look at 20 years back and if I look at now, like I grew up in Ghaziabad, and I still remember evening time, there were time when we all would be walking. So when you would also meet other people, and there would be, even if I would not talk to my parents, let's say, I would talk to a padosi wala bhaiya or a didi, and I would be able to go and share with them, be it career issues, be it study issues,
but that's
be it
not
relationship
happening anymore.
issues.
That's not happening.
So
I want to bring in Dr. Bali on that. We're discussing how it's a failed parental strategy, what many are saying, not my words. This is what people are saying. I've got my parents watching this as well. So I am just trying to understand, is it only that, or is it also the influence of what Dr. Phadke said earlier, too much of involvement, like you're investing not in relationships, you're investing on social media, you're investing on friends on Facebook, you're investing on Instagram followers and likes. You're not investing in real relationships.
Okay, so before I answer this question, there's another question which you asked Mr. Jatin, which I would like to answer here. before I come to this.
Yeah, please go
So
ahead.
you said that how do you differentiate whether it is clinical depression or just mere sadness?
Yeah.
And when should you take help? How would you
Correct.
know that? So see, sadness is like a normal emotion, right? All of us experience sadness. So it is only when the sadness becomes persistent and pervasive, it starts affecting our day-to-day life. For example, we are not interested in whatever was pleasurable to us before. Our energy levels go down. We do a little bit of work, we start feeling tired. We start feeling very negative about past,
But that could
future.
just be being lazy.
No.
How do you differentiate? That
Yeah,
could
so I'm
just
coming
be,
to it.
Yeah.
So when we have a cluster of symptoms like feeling sad majority of the time, not feeling like doing anything, feeling very low in energy, feeling very negative about ourselves, our future, our past, having those helpless, worthless ideas about self, the sleep and appetite starts getting disturbed, either it's too much or too little. Then sometimes when depression becomes too much, then a person
Why
may-
is that happening though?
Yeah, so I'm coming to it. So let me just finish this bit. So when it becomes too much, then the person may even start harboring death wishes and suicidal ideas. So when these symptoms are present for a period of time, say for 2 weeks or more, then we say that it is clinical depression. When it starts affecting our day-to-day functioning, then we must go ahead and take help. So here I'm trying to highlight sadness is like a normal emotion all of us experience, but when it becomes pervasive, it starts affecting our day-to-day functioning, then we say it is depression. It's an illness and we must go ahead and take help.
What do we do after that is something I want to talk in the next segment.
Yeah.
But, hold your thought on that. I want to bring in Sudhir Mishra here. Sir, I was reading in an article earlier, said that there was this one point in your life where you felt that this was too much to take in. Tell us what exactly happened.
A divorce happened, my brother died, my wife had cancer. It all sort of happened in 6-7 years. Yeah, so I mean, that happened. I mean, personally apart, you have to, the problem, I think today, if there is a problem today, because as the good doctor said before, there's 2% people in the world that are depressed, and that's a disease and that's genetic, and they need another kind of treatment. But the rest, there is a kind of I think there is a greater articulation of depression today. I mean, I grew up in Lucknow, where half your family was clinically depressed. Nobody talked about it. There was a kind of lack of hope. So, I mean, today there is an articulation and a need and a conversation about it, which is, I think, and being brought out in the open is a very interesting fact.
Sudhir, that's what I'm trying to highlight
I
today.
think,
There
I
is
think
much
good.
more communication, much
It's-
more
it's, I think, good.
articulation,
I mean,
much
that we
more
are-
expression of thought and ideas. Yet this
Yeah.
generation is the most depressed. I quickly want to get a word from Dr. Farke before I take a break.
Absolutely.
Why is that happening? There is more expression of
Yes,
ideas. There is
you
more
see-
friends,
you-
more
you see-
Facebook
you
likes.
see, I mean,
Despite
you
that,
see,
people
there
are
is
more,
a kind of-
more depressed.
There is a medical. There is a kind of the pharmaceutical companies have. There is a medicalization of disease. There is an idea of a quick fix. So you
I
take a
also
pill,
wanna get
and those
Dr. Farke on
85%
this. I
people
wanna
that
get Dr. Farke on
depressed
this,
because
please.
of stress reasons, because of a
Yeah.
failure, sense of handling failure. These people. They need a long-term, it needs a long-term change from the inside about how you view life, that it's okay to fail, that it's okay
Right.
to not succeed, it's okay to sometimes be sad, that it's okay not to be happy at times, that life is difficult, that, relationships will not always work out, that your friends will sometimes betray you. There is this whole idea of
But perhaps a
perfection
coping
and
mechanism,
this whole
that's what's missing.
advertising
Dr.
idea
Farke, please.
sold
Dr.
of a
Farke on
perfect
this,
life,
I want to
which is
understand.
just not true.
This is a baffling situation. I fail to understand how on one
Yeah.
hand people are expressing more, talking more, though we are more nuclear in
Yeah.
our families, but parents have thus more time because there are 1 or 2 kids compared to earlier when there were more kids,
Right.
when there used to be more kids, when there used to be more aunts, etc. So what's gone wrong? Why is it that people are not expressing to individuals, to human beings, but online, to
Absolutely,
people
yeah.
who do not exist? I mean, to people who might they might never see them in person.
Right, exactly. So that's a very good point. I mean, with all the benefits of technology, like I was saying earlier, we have to all understand that just being on Facebook or Twitter and Instagram and sharing your thoughts on that is not exactly the best way to cope with certain things, because all that Facebook and all these things do is give you a dopamine rush with every notification, with everything that you see. It doesn't really help you in coping with anything. Instead of reaching out on Facebook, if you were to talk to somebody which was a trained therapist or a trained psychiatrist in something like this without actually feeling embarrassed to do so, it would be far more important. It would go a long way even if one person were to go and talk to somebody apart from their friends or family.